Welcome to Rebuilt, an original series from Bealing Roofing.
All right, today we've got another amazing guest lined up for us. We are speaking with Jim Gamber of Lomanco Vents, and Jim has quite literally made himself the doctor of ventilation and attic configuration in the roofing industry. And he's empowering roofing contractors like myself and homeowners alike to make sure that they understand the importance of proper ventilation and how far that goes into paying down your energy bills, making sure that the investment you make into your home with a new roof, it actually gets beyond that terrible industry average of just under 20 years. So Jim is about to bestow us with some really great information, both for homeowners and contractors alike, so that way you can really understand at a basic level how important it is to properly ventilate, properly insulate, and then ultimately just humanize another great individual within the roofing industry. All right, well, Jim, having you on the show is a privilege for sure. I'm a huge fan of you, your work, and everything that Lomanco is doing to, really change the industry. So it was maybe 2 years ago or so that I finally got introduced to you, and through a demonstration there in the showroom, and it's changed my mind entirely on how roofing should be viewed. And as a result, we've really kind of remolded the way that we position our offer. So that's just a kind of little background on how, our relationship came into view. But let's talk a little bit about you, because in knowing your story, you got started in this industry
Long time ago.
I don't want to date you too much, right? But it's you got started early,
May of '92.
And it's been a while. So tell us, folks that don't know you yet, in any capacity, personally or professionally, how'd you get into the industry? About when was that? And I guess what keeps you going all these years later?
Well, it was May of '92. My parents were actually worked in distribution business, and as I was coming to the end of my junior year of high school, the manager of that branch location, asked me what I was going to do for the summer. I'm like, I don't know. He goes, why don't you come here and work in the summer? You work in the warehouse and that kind of stuff. So I started in a shingle distribution center. It was actually the roof center, who had been purchased out to now a QXO company. So I started there in May of '92. In my the next year, '93, I went to back to school. My senior year, I only went to school half a day. I got out of school at 10 o'clock. So Kevin, the manager, is like, well, what are you going to do with the rest of your day? I'm like, I don't know. I was good in school, but I wasn't, forward thinking at that point. So he's like, why don't you come here and work? So 10 o'clock every day, I'd get out of school, I'd go down to the office, and I'd work a half a day on Saturdays. Then I graduated June. And he's like, what now are you going to do with yourself? I'm like, Kevin, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just stay here until you figure it out? And here I am, 2026, still in the industry. So I did 20 years in distribution, went from sweeping warehouses to, they got me my CDLs. I was delivering material, went to the fleet department, which is where my dad was. He did a lot of maintenance stuff, came back into the sales side, management side. And then after 20 years, a shingle manufacturer came after me. I went to work for ICO Shingles in Maryland and Virginia. So I opened them up in pretty much the Maryland, Baltimore market. And then 10 years ago, I started talking to Lomanco. Lomanco reached out to me, and here I am. I haven't looked back, and this will be where I finish.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. So good thing that you were impressionable by folks, or influenced by folks who were trying to mold you professionally, and not,
That's one thing about this industry. It's so large and vast, but yet it's so connected. So now I'm the Mid-Atlantic area market manager. So I've got 6 states. I go from just north of Richmond up through New York City, White Plains and Yonkers, all of Long Island, and then Pennsylvania, Williamsport, and East. That's pretty much 6 states that I cover. In those 6 states, I can guarantee you there will be somebody that I will run into in my travels that I have worked with or bought material from them at some time in the industry. It's just such a close knit when you really get out and see people. So a lot of people have helped me along the way, and it's building those relationships and learning. I've always been that person that I'm a hands-on type of learner. So I say with what I do now, I have an unfair advantage over my competition because I was that guy sweeping the warehouse. I know what he expects. I know what branch manager expects. I know what contractors expect from everybody in between. So it helps me understand where I can fit and, more importantly, where I can help. Because that, in the end, that's what I want to do, is I want to help my customers. Because if I can help them, they're going to be more successful. And if they're more successful, I'm more successful. So it's kind of the way I like to work. And the way that I came up through the industry really helped me kind of fill all those questions I may have, because I've been there or have seen it firsthand myself. So
yeah, no doubt you've seen it quite literally from the ground up, from the broom handle to understanding all of the dynamic elements that are represented in shingling, and now into Lomanco ventilation as a expert in ventilation and ventilation products, which we'll certainly dive into those details. But what's kept you in I know you said that it's a very connected industry, but what's kept you in the industry from the time you were a junior in high school till now? That's an unusual trajectory. It's not common. Most people's resumes have far more pivot points in it. So what's kept you in the industry so long? What drives you?
Honestly, I think I've never been a person to really be, I guess you would say, a job hopper, and my challenge for myself was always getting in and trying to become the best at where I'm at. So like I mentioned a while ago, with what I'm doing in sales, for me to become my best is to help those others around me become their best. And that's where I feel I get the most, that's where I strive, and that's what makes me want to stay here. It's a lot. I cover 6 states. I'm in hotels 3, 4, maybe more than that nights a week, away from my family. I think my kids are older. I've got a granddaughter now, but what I do, it's one of those jobs. I get up every day and am excited to go to work. And I think when you find that, it makes it easy. And again, this industry, it's treated me well. Not just financially, but with friendships and meeting people, dealing with companies like yourself. And it becomes not just make a sales call or, bring something of value to. It's hey, look what we did, look what happened,
Yeah, no, I love that. And I couldn't agree more that, just in my, compared to your tenure within the industry, I've still experienced a lot of that for myself, that, I do genuinely wake up every day and I love what I do. I love the people element of it, both for, my internal customers, like our staff, our external customers who are purchasing services from us, and then the vendor side of it too, on an external standpoint. I get to meet some really great and exceptional people like yourself that really are doing everything within their power to make us better at what we do. So, I think it goes without saying that we appreciate it. But as far as speaking on behalf of the entire industry, thank goodness for people like you that are passionate about what you do. You love what you do because you are improving the industry as a whole. And if we could just get some more people, really kind of preaching what you preach and just, subscribing to the narrative that you represent, then the industry as a whole, specifically as it relates to roofing anyway, it would be so much better. And I think we'll certainly kind of segue into those channels there. But so let's talk about what you do now, right? Because you kind of laid it out for us. The lineage in the industry was janitor, so to say, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Then a stay with IKO, and now with Lomanco. So. For those that are watching that aren't familiar with you or Lomanco, in a nutshell, what is Lomanco, and what does Lomanco represent to the roofing industry?
So Lomanco, we're a family-owned and operated ventilation company. We make ventilation. So pretty much we wake up every morning, we go to sleep every night thinking about ventilation. Anything to remove the heat and the moisture from the home. That's what we as a company do. My job is I'm the Mid-Atlantic area market manager. So I cover those 6 states that I mentioned a little while ago. And what I do is I go around and work with distribution and wherever you may buy your products from. And then I also work with contractors on educating them on proper ways to handle ventilation, the do's and don'ts. So one of the biggest things that we do is we do seminars. I do a ton of years. Pretty much what it is, it's an hour-long demonstration. I bring in some, we call them smoke houses, and some displays, and we show how to properly vent a home with intake and exhaust. Our education is not just pushing, here's Lomanco, here's our product. We definitely are going to push that and show why we are the best products. what we want to show you how to ventilate the roof. My goal is when I do those trainings, anytime I'm sitting with a group of contractors, whether it's one contractor in the room or 200 contractors in the room, early in that conversation, one of the first things I will say to them is, when you leave this room today, I don't want you to change anything you do. You should go in that home and you should sell yourself and you should sell your company. My challenge to you when you leave this room in the seminar today is, on your next in-home presentation, just spend 3 to 5 minutes talking about ventilation. Use some of the fancy words you're going to hear today during the demonstration. Show some of the pictures I'll show you today that you can take from that home to show Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner why their roof has failed. What I've kind of figured out and put together in the industry in the time that I've been here, if there's going to be a roof failure, unless it's end of life or storm of the shingle, about 95 to 98% of the time, it's due to improper ventilation. That roof is failing because it's not ventilated properly. So my goal with that in mind is, when I'm meeting with contractors and I'm training, is I want you guys to be able to go in and show those homeowners where it's going wrong, how you're going to fix it. If you can show them how it failed and how you're going to do it properly, why wouldn't they want to close with you at that point? So that's a big part of Lomanco. Yes, we go out and we sell a ton of product. We do a great job. But if our owners or president were here right now, they would tell you probably the most important thing, other than us, of course, they love us to death, is getting out and doing the education. We want to educate the contractors because, again, like I mentioned earlier, if you guys win, then I win. We win at that point. So that's my goal of trying to help. Is I want my customers, my friends, to win. And if I can give them the knowledge and education that they can now close more deals in the home, that's what I want to do, and that's what we do.
Yeah, and they're doing it the right way, which I genuinely respect and appreciate, because our model is to educate, right? It's to put solutions via a game plan per each of our customers' situation, and not just to necessarily bid the job and cross your fingers and hope that.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned about doing thorough inspections and understanding what got you into this position in the first place, and just drilling down on your position and your stance is that unless it's an end of life sort of event, right, where the shingle has just surpassed its life expectancy, right, it's a regular sort of retail replacement. You wear it out. It's like tires on your car. Absolutely. When they go bald, you put new ones on. So you have that. Then you have legitimate storm damage, right, that would cause a premature roof failure, or you have, in most cases, you have improper ventilation. So drilling down on that and that education model, as someone that is ventilation trained, thanks to you, being able to properly identify that and then fix it, I feel like that is what's ultimately going to change this narrative in the industry, that the average roof is only, at a recent conference, they say it's 19.9 years. So what is your thought process on, if you can get these products and that education behind how to install them, and not just putting them on the roof, but actually using them, right, and solving the underlying problem? What do you think that does to the industry as a whole? Like, where does 19.9 years? Like there's manufacturers out there that say their products will last 50, and then you have all the little fine print items. So, I mean, is this something that you feel like if you can just train enough people, that maybe we start to push the life expectancy of shingles, or maybe we start to, elevate the overall workmanship? Like, is there a sort of personal mission that you have beyond just the education in terms of how it affects the whole industry?
Yeah, I definitely think, we know from our testing, if a roof is ventilated properly, you're going to get the longevity. Not only are you going to get the longevity of the roof, but you're going to get a better performing home altogether. Because we think about ventilation, yes, it's sold with the roofing package. It's designed to get the heat and moisture out of the home. But if you don't do that properly, that moisture builds up in the attic space. It gets in your insulation. What happens when insulation gets wet? You lose your R value. Therefore, it's no longer working properly. That extra heat that builds up in that attic space, if that's not eliminated, that's going to radiate into the living area. What's that going to do? It's going to raise your energy costs to heat and cool the home. So a properly ventilated roof doesn't just extend the longevity of the shingle. It protects the home in the end. So that's what we want to do. In the end, I would definitely, if a roof is ventilated properly, that 19.9 or whatever, 20, we'll call it 20 years now, I can definitely see that increasing. And there's a lot of factors that are involved, I'm sure, when they come up with that. But, years ago, there used to be 20-year shingles, 25-year shingles, 40-year shingles. Now all the architectural courses, as we know, are limited lifetime.
Mhm.
What does that mean? What is limited lifetime? Yes, with some of these extended warranties, you can go out to 50 years. But again, through our testing and our knowledge, you'll never get there if the roof is not ventilated properly. So that's why we push our education and the seminars, getting in front of those sales teams and letting them understand. Because in the end, if they're able to educate that homeowner, they're going to close more deals. And that's what we want to have happen. And I've had guys tell me, we might not go in and get that one closed call, but yet the contractors coming behind me, they're just throwing numbers. They never mentioned Bernoulli effect. They never showed pictures of mold growth in my rafter tails. So then I get that phone call. As the contractor, I get that phone call back saying, hey, you were $2,000 higher, whatever the number may be, but you're the only one that talked to me about my ventilation. So now as a sales guy, that gives me one or two things, opportunities. I either reassure them why I'm that high, or if I need to make an adjustment, I can make an adjustment. But 9 times out of 10, that adjustment doesn't have to be made because they're calling you back for a reason because of what? You educated them.
Right.
In the end, the internet has created a lot of specialists in today's world. You go in from with a homeowner, good or bad, they are educated. So if you can help educate them and help them understand maybe what they read on the internet, they might say, well, the ventilation is at the 1-300 rule. They might not know what the 1-300 rule is. But you yourself, if you've been through the training, you know what the 1-300 rule is. So you can educate them on it and show them how you're going to get to that. Show them their intake. Show them the mold, the pictures you may have taken in the attic space. Education is the key. Ventilation is not difficult. There's a little understanding involved, but in the end, if you look at the whole building envelope, let's call a house $300,000. Average cost in my market, I try to use a number of a 2,000 square foot attic space. So when you figure out ventilation, you want length times width of the attic floor. So a 2,000 square foot attic space, average cost to vent that roof properly is about $200 material cost to do it properly. Now, that little cost in the whole building envelope is the most important part. If you're able to educate the homeowner of how important the ventilation side of it is and how you're going to do it properly, how you're here to fix the problem, show them where the problems have been, that longevity, not only from the home and the roof itself, but that longevity of that relationship you just made with the homeowner, it's priceless in my opinion.
100%.
Education, numbers are numbers, and numbers are always going to be important. But the education and the relationship is, in my opinion, is the most important part of both what I do and the in-home user with the homeowner and the contractors themselves.
For sure. And I mean, it's my personal belief that if everyone were to just start to subscribe to this in-home education model, and then also contractors, rather than just trying to get to the next job, like let's educate and let's improve the industry through being real professionals, like experts in our craft, like doctors, if you will, of our trade. That's what you've become with Lomanco. And I think it's easily safe to say that when and you're not just trying to compare apples to apples, I hate that saying because there's so many apples out there.
Yeah.
But if you were trying to compare apples to apples, and you said it best, if someone came in and actually gave you that model and that game plan, that solution, it's a standout piece of value all on its own. It's a unique differentiator. It becomes a solution at that point. It's not just who can do it quick and who can do it cheap. We always try to influence our customers and our customer base to take your time, and really figure out like what got you into this problem and what's going to prevent you from getting back into it.
Big decision they're getting ready to make.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't want as much as we want that signature and a job site in the yard. We understand, and that's the best thing is to help them through that process and understanding. And it goes back to if we're able to show the problem, how we're going to resolve the problem.
I'm curious too, as far in Lomanco's position or your thought process on renovating existing homes. Like there's a huge niche out there for folks that want to flip homes quickly, and I understand the mathematical equation that represents is people are trying to make money. So sometimes, unfortunately, a roof is because it's not a living surface.
Yeah.
a lot of times that's where the biggest corners get cut. And that's where, a lot of profit is realized for the person that's flipping it, that will quite literally say, it looks good from my house 2 states
Just
away.
get out of there.
Just get out. And I feel like, unfortunately, too, in new construction, you have the same thing, right? These massive builds. And I mean, while I would love to see, but I seriously doubt that this is going to become the case where, airflow physics and ventilation principles and practices are implemented at large in new construction and in residential flips. I feel like that's what's ultimately, you said there's many factors to that 19.9 or 20-year average, but that has to be kind of the ugly stain on all of this, is that it's just being thrown together so cheap. So what do you find now, in all your years of wisdom in those applications where it's a flip or it's new construction? Like how devastating is to, shingles that are 10 years old? Like how devastating is it to not properly set these attic spaces up?
Different ends of the spectrum, but two of the worst parts, in my opinion, of what we look for and what we want to do properly. Why do I say the worst parts? Because like you mentioned, in a flip, they want to try to do it cheap. They want to get out of there. So they're maybe using some inferior products, that don't vent as well. But more importantly, they're just trying to get it done quick. So they're not worrying about, do I have intake? Again, they're just trying to get a new shingle on there and get it flipped. With a builder, they want a good product. They want it to look good. But in the end, it's 1 year. They're hung out for a year. Mm-hmm. After that, it's, on the installer or the manufacturer. Now there's some good guys out there, some good companies to do it. But so what we do, like we've got some national builders that spec all of our products. They've taken the time to do the trainings and they spec the products. There's a number of them in the 6 states that I cover. The problem with that is whether it's a new construction or the flip, you can give them all the best products in the world. If they're not installed properly, it's just the best product nailed up there. It's not going to perform. The most important part of that is having that installer, making sure the installer is educated and knows not just how the product needs to be installed, but how it performs. Because if they understand how it needs to perform, I think they pay more attention of how they install. Mm. I've run into jobs where you'll go out and they'll say, I've got some excessive moisture in the attic space. They're seeing some mold or some rusty nails. And I'll go out and look at it. And from the road, it looks great. I can do the calculations, do the math by walking around the outside, check the soffit from the outside, 100% perfect it looks. But as soon as you get in the attic space, you take a look. You see the soffits maybe blocked with insulation. Maybe you see the intake, the exhausts aren't cut all the way open. Maybe you see different types of exhausts on different levels, things like that. That's where we run into issues. It's things just shortcuts, I guess you could say, sure. or things not being done properly. With that being said, that's one of the things I will offer in my trainings. I tell guys all the time that sit through my trainings, if you have an issue on the job that you've done in the past, you've got a call back, you need help on, get me involved. I got a big territory. I do a lot of traveling. Don't call me on a Wednesday and say, hey, can you come look at this job on Friday? But I might be able to hook up with you and go out and look at the job site or get me some pictures and help you. Even if it's not my product, if I can go out there and figure it out, help you, that's going to help us both in the end. But more importantly, it helps educate me.
Right.
I do this every day. And I appreciate you saying it earlier. I heard people say, Jim, you're the professional in ventilation. I want to be the professional. I'm still learning every day. That's why I like to go out to those jobs that might not have been my product, maybe somebody else's product, or the guy's going out to look at the job for the first time and he says, hey, man, this is a big cut up roof. I could really use some help on this. I like getting involved in those when I can because it helps me learn. And what I'm able to learn, I'm able to pass on. Mm-hmm. My only caveat and the joke that I have is when I tell contractors, if I come out and look at a job with you, I'm there as an extension of your company. I'm going to help you. But on my next training, you may see some of those pictures of that job we were just on. I'll never say where the job came from, but if I can use those real world pictures that we are going to see in this market to help myself and to help others, it's a win for both of us. That's why I like going to do that, to help. I want to be the professional. You might say I'm the professional now. I don't think I'm the professional. I think I'm darn good at it, but I want to continue learning. We're never, in my opinion, you'll never stop learning.
Well, that's what makes you an expert, is that insatiable desire to continue learning. So I think the brightest minds in the world, not only do they attract and put themselves in a room with other people that are exceptionally talented and brilliant in their own way, which is what makes that collective group of those it's a mastermind, right? So, you and I collaborating, I think that puts us at the top of the food chain, but it's coming in every day with, your owner's hat on, or your beginner's hat on too, right? Thinking about it, like, if this was my company, what would I do? How would I treat that customer? How would I treat this relationship? And I don't know everything, and I'm upfront about that. Like, there's some things that I definitely do know, but I don't know it all. So please tell me what I don't know, so that way we can collectively come up with the best solution in the end. So for homeowners watching, for contractors watching, I think that exchange right there, that's the gold here, is that professionals work alongside of other professionals. And because of that relationship, the quality that's output from that continues to elevate, because we're never satisfied with good. It's never good enough. How can we get
always
just
another level? There's
always another level. There's always something else to learn. So there's exponential growth in working with professionals who position themselves with other professionals. So I know for certain that being able to have guys like you on our Rolodex when we're up against something tough, like we're capable at that point then, right? Because if we don't know, we know who to call, right? It's kind of that Einstein theory, right? You don't have to memorize all the information. You can't. So just knowing who to call is the best thing. So for contractors specifically, like, having you in their Rolodex, I think is, if they don't, they're missing out on huge value. And I'm pretty sure that you make yourself quite accessible. So we'll be sure we'll be sure to make sure that all of your contact information is in the description below, as well as some of the demonstrations on how these products work. Because I realize from an audio perspective, or in the capacity of the studio here, it's hard to kind of put to to visualize what we're talking about. But I think that everyone would be, specifically on the contractor side, would be missing out if they didn't make attempts to reach out to you and establish a relationship, particularly in this part of the country that you operate in. And
absolutely.
you guys have reps that are nationwide, right? Lomanco's a nationwide. So man, reach out to your local Lomanco rep.
We're all throughout North America.
Excellent. Yep. Excellent. So, from a real quick, then from a homeowner's point of view, because I think if we drill down here a little bit too, what is one of the top things that they should be considering, right, in a typical residential retail replacement sort of scenario, right? So I think that oftentimes it is ultimately about the number, right, and that price all too often becomes that prevailing factor. I mean, what's the one thing that you try to impress upon homeowners specifically, so that way they can make a good decision? Like, is there a gold nugget there for homeowners when they're evaluating, who do I work with? Like, how do they know who's the best fit to take on that project?
Honestly, I think it comes down to relationship and rapport. This was probably early 2000s. I was in a sales meeting and they were showing some information, and one of the things they mentioned, and this was from the Association of Realtors, had put out, I want to say it's around 2007 is when this was put out. They said 68% of the time, the homeowner does not know what product they're using. So what does that mean? That means that they bought into that person, that contractor, that customer, over a relationship and rapport of them coming in, selling their self and selling their business. And at that point, they're just picking colors because they felt and they saw that value that was brought to the table, the education that we talked about, not just with ventilation. It could be windows, it could be siding, it could be composite decking, whatever. That contractor went in and educated that homeowner, show them issues they may have had or may be down the line with some products that they have and how they can fix it. They've now built that rapport, that relationship. That homeowner is now comfortable and understands. It's not just Jim from XYZ Roofing that's trying to get me to sign on a line to get a job. It's somebody that's actually got my best interest, and not, like we mentioned a little while ago, they're not just forcing me to try to get a signature right now.
Right.
They want to educate me. And so my thing would be, don't rush in. Learn, like you mentioned, let the contractor teach you. Listen to what they have. Ask the questions. If you heard, we mentioned earlier talking about the internet. You can learn a lot on the internet, but if you're not in the industry, it can be super confusing. Mm-hmm. I can go on there and do all the aerospace engineering research I want and think I've got a good idea of it, but do I really? No.
Right.
But if I sit down with an aerospace engineer and ask him some questions, I'm gonna have a better understanding, a better grasp, make me feel comfortable. It's the same thing with a homeowner contractor meeting, if you will. Let that education, let that conversation, let that relationship, that rapport fester, let it grow. And then at that point, I feel comfortable that my business that I'm doing with Jordan is going to protect me and my family and my home. It's going to be right moving forward, because in the end, we only want to do this once.
Right.
We don't want to have to, spend a bunch of money for a roof or deck windows or whatever it may be. And then 8 years down the road, we've got issues and we got to go through it again.
Right.
So my thing would be just the education side of build that relationship, that rapport. Don't always try to chase a dollar and sign real quick. Do your due diligence. Sure.
What we always say, and I think it's probably common throughout the industry and probably in every industry, that where quality is super prevalent, is that in roofing, the cheap price is the roof you buy twice. And what you're saying is that sometimes it's not the words and the estimate, the line items, that's not going to give you that feeling that someone is, genuinely after serving your best interest. So it's a servant, I think, that people need to look for in home, specifically, in home sales, right? I mean, it's sales, right? So they are attempting to transact and provide their services. That's quite literally what keeps them in business. But there's a deeper purpose to that. And the people that feel good at the end of the day, those are feelings. They're a transaction on feelings from influential salespeople, that it's not about the transaction. It's about improving that person's life. So, and I think that's, you said that in a nutshell for sure. So in layman terms then too, to kind of help put homeowners that are in the consideration phase, right, where they're trying to figure out, or they may have started collecting estimates, or they're getting ready to start doing that. At the time of this recording, it's basically the heart of winter. Mm-hmm. It's the first week of January. So, inevitably folks are starting to think about springtime, and, for us that, that springtime rush is going to be here before we know it. So folks are probably starting to gear up for that. And that happens throughout the year. But now that they're starting to get a little bit more educated on how important it is to properly, not only just properly insulate, but also to properly ventilate, and they're so linked, in layman terms, what's one thing that they should know in terms of how your attic works? Like, you mentioned intake, exhaust. Mm-hmm. I think that from what I remember from your training, you had a pretty easy to understand analogy, or several, honestly, about how the attic space works and how you can make it relate to, I don't know, automotive or something in that nature. So that way people understand not only how it works, because that's the key there, but then the importance of that too. Because you talked about moisture, ridding heat. So like, how does that, in layman terms, what does that actually look like when it's done correctly?
So when a roof is ventilated correctly, your end goal, what you're looking to do, is turn that air in that attic space over about every 6 minutes or so. That's eliminating the heat and moisture out of the attic. The way to do that with a properly ventilated roof is having correct intake, which is the lowest part of the roof, is just generally going to be at the soffits, and then exhaust, which is generally from the ridge. And that cool, dry air gets pulled into the soffits and exhausts through the exit through the ridge vent or power fan or whatever you may have up there at the moment. That is the ideal way to do it. That's what eliminating the heat and the moisture out of the attic is. Now, there's some math that's utilized in coming up with that. Like in this area, the general rule, or the national rule, IRC and IBC code, is a 1-300 rule. And what that means is for every 300 square foot of attic space they need to have 1 square foot of ventilation. So when they come up with that number of ventilation needed then needs to be split in half, because now half of it's got to be on the intake side and half of it's got to be on the exhaust side to be a balanced system, to assure that you're able to turn that attic space every 6 minutes. Easiest way to kind of think of ventilation. And there's a couple major issues that will cause ventilation to fail. One is not having enough intake, and we see that all the time in residential remodel stuff when we go out to do a re-roof. The other thing is mixed exhaust vents, meaning we have a ridge vent and maybe we have a power fan, or we have a ridge vent at one height and another ridge vent at another height, 3 feet or 4 feet below that. Those are one of the two of the number one failures. The easiest way to explain how those fail, if we think of ventilation as a drinking straw. Same diameter at the bottom, same diameter at the top. You put that drinking straw in your drink, you're drinking through it, you have constant flow. That's what we're looking for, that constant attic airflow. If we take the bottom side of that straw, which we will call the intake, and you pinch that straw a little bit and try to drink through it, what's going to happen? You're going to get some air, some fluid through there, but you're not going to get what you need to drink that drink or to turn that attic space over. Now, if we were to have that perfect straw, same opening at the diameter at the bottom and at the top, and now you get a crack in it, you go to McDonald's somewhere and you crack your straw and you try to drink through it, what happens? You don't get a lot of drink through it. You get that airflow. That's that short circuit, that extra vent that you would put in the middle. So with ventilation, you want a perfect drinking straw. You want that perfect diameter at the bottom and that perfect diameter at the top. So your drink, that air is able to flow through that attic space. Is that easy? Not all the time, especially with some of these larger homes today. With a regular ranch style home, it's pretty simple. You got one large attic space. You can figure out your intake. You can figure out your exhaust. Some of these other larger homes with maybe hip style roofs and different bump out and reverses, you might actually have to take that roof and split it, the attic space, and split it into a couple different sections to vent it properly. And that's one of the things, some of the things we talk about in our training is to show how to do that and educate the guys how to do it properly, how to be that problem solver. That way we can show the homeowners, and the homeowners understand how to do it properly and why we've maybe been having mold and moisture issues in the past.
That was one of the most eye-opening portions of your training, was talking about hip style roofs and attics that have multiple compartments. Because like you said, understanding if you just need one-to-one intake to exhaust in a up and over ranch style, that's pretty easy to accomplish most of the time.
Yep.
Unless there's some really weird sort of architecture, building styles at play there. It happens, right? But it's these big 2-story homes, multiple attic compartments, and understanding how to section that off and make each portion of the attic ventilate properly, and how you can rob attic ventilation from other portions by not treating each compartment as its own compartment and sectionalizing it off. As a former I worked on power lines and I was a trouble man in Baltimore City, isolating and verifying and going through all those procedures to make sure that when I open this switch up or when I put this ground in, I don't blow myself up. I was able to really kind of translate that into what you were describing with, okay, we have to isolate each section. And if you don't do that, then like you mentioned a while back here, the best products, if you don't understand how they're supposed to be used, it doesn't matter what you put on there. Absolutely. They could be made of gold and they're not going to work because you didn't address it at the foundation level, right? And making sure that you know how the attic is breathing and that one part isn't stealing from the other. One of the other things you said too is about kind of mixed, and speaking to the same thing, right? Mixed, where you could either have, a ridge vent just below, you have your main ridge, and then you've got a dormer. And that one can become intake and exhaust for the other. Something else that's very common, particularly here where our customer base is, and I'm sure it's prevalent throughout the rest of the United States too, is that old style of like Gable venting. So like a lot of times we go out and we meet with homeowners and they've got a ridge vent, but they've also got cross ventilation happening with Gables. And it's very easy in that ranch style, like, okay, let's just close those off, force ventilation down to the eaves, and then you've got one-to-one at the eave and at the ridge. But we go back on roofs that are 6, 8, not even 10 years old, and they're it's a brand new roof, but it's failing because you have this mixed match of ventilation. And it would have taken 5 minutes to just put a piece of trash underlayment. You use the old felt paper and just staple to the backside of it and just close off those Gable vents. So like even just on the smallest scale, what it ends up proving to us is that there is such little knowledge out there around how to properly ventilate and elongate the life cycle of these products and these services, and they're not inexpensive. Like it's not cheap to put a roof on. Even the cheapest guy, it's not cheap, and it's really not an attractive purchase at the end of the day either. So just understanding it at a basic level, what you're talking about, can protect your investment, even if you do hire the cheap guy, which by all means go for it, but force him to. Are you addressing anything ventilation-wise? Just if people take nothing away from this, all I'd want them to do on the homeowner side is force the contractor that they are potentially exploring as a potential fit are you addressing anything ventilation wise? Just ask that one question. If their eyes roll back in their head, that's just, be courteous and let them finish. But like, that's it. You just sever ties there. And then on the contractor side, like, please get yourself educated and you make it so easy. And especially with all the demonstrations that you do, it's so easy to understand. And then at that point, you really can become a professional in the home. You become the doctor of roofing. And that's exactly what's happened to us is we've become the doctors of roofing here in the Mid-Atlantic.
And I think when contractors like yourself, when you're able to get in front of the homeowner, again, you have that relationship and that rapport is already built. If you're able to show them some failure spots in their attic, we call it rain staining or rust staining. Moisture builds up in the attic and it collects on that nail. You get rust on that nail that's sticking through the bottom side of the plywood. Then that rusty rainwater, if you will, from the humidity in the attic drops down on the insulation. You're able to take some of those pictures and show those pictures and show the homeowner the issues that they're having because the roof isn't ventilated properly and explain to them, well, now your insulation is holding water. Therefore, you don't have the R value that you have. So you're losing energy efficiency in your home. So ventilation doesn't just answer the question of protecting the shingle. It does protect the whole home. That small, minuscule number that we chatted about a little while ago, that protects that whole $300, $400, $500 million home, whatever the cost of the home. Ventilation is the key. There's a reason that HVAC companies, they're interested in ventilation. They don't want their systems to have to work harder. Paint companies, why would a paint company be interested in ventilation? Well, they don't want moisture buildup in the home because what happens? They'll get blistering behind their paint. All those different, everybody in the end of anything in that home, that whole building envelope, ventilation will touch 90% of those products in there. So ventilation's super important. That's why companies like yourself, when you guys are able to go in the home and answer those questions for the homeowner, show them the do's and the don'ts, practice this. This is why we do this and then you show them. That's educating the homeowner. That in the end, yes, that bottom right corner, that number is important, but they also want to know that whatever that number may be, I want to make sure that that number is going to take care of my problem here. I don't want to have to look at that number or a similar number again. So with the way you guys go to business and the way things happen in the home, that's where all the wins, in my opinion, happen. Ventilation, yes, it's generally looked at as a roofing product. It's in the roofing product of plans, scope of plans and everything. But in the end, it's an overall product for the whole home, in my opinion. And that's what I want guys to understand. It's not just don't skimp on ventilation because I want to get a cheap roof up there and move on to the next one. It's not, should never be the outlook you should have. You want to, what's better for the home, what's better for the homeowner, what's better for yourself. Because in the end, you solve that problem, you get that job. What does that job turn into? More jobs. The best lead you could ever get is that word of mouth lead from somebody you've already done a business with. And that's important.
Yeah, certainly. It's the biggest compliment that you could ever get as a professional is for someone to become a brand ambassador for you and an advocate. And you only do that when you're really taking good care of people, right? When they feel like, whether it be the day that you decided to, come into agreement or the day that the last truck leaves, then years later, right? Advocacy comes from a feeling, right? And taking care of people at a very visceral level. And so, stepping back to, I think a little while ago, and then you just kind of brought it back up and reminded me that ventilation is an entire home concept, right? It covers everything. Like I didn't even think about the paint, right? It makes total sense. That combined with insulation, like we typically tell people, like these are things that you pay for over time, right? A little while ago, you had mentioned that, if you're improperly insulated, then you're going to pay for that in added energy bills. If you're inadequately insulated and then improperly ventilated, now you've accelerated the cost of that failure. And so these are things that you pay for over time, right? And you can pay dearly for it over time if it's not done correctly. So think of it as a small investment to make on a monthly basis to protect your home and keep your energy costs down, right? So these are things, if you consider that, it does pay itself back over the long haul. So obvious that you are super, super passionate about what you do in the world of ventilation with Lomanco and also just being a people guy, right? What does what does life look for you when you're not? I know you spend a tremendous amount of time on the road as a servant to others. I mean, what does Jim do for himself when he's not out serving others? What's your time off look like?
I have a 3-year-old, 3-foot tall bank account leech. I call my granddaughter, who is my world.
Nice.
She's it's best thing that's ever happened to me. My wife and I spend as much time as we can with her. We also have a camp down on the eastern shore, northern neck of Virginia. So usually from late March until the 1st of November, we're down there on the weekends, hanging out, running around the campground with friends. Just my wife and I spending time together. With my travel in the spring, summer, the way weeks usually work out is Fridays, I wind up meeting her down there.
Okay.
And then her and the dogs, and we spend the weekend together. And then I come home and sleep in my own bed on Sunday night most of the times. And then I travel back out. Other than that, I've become a duck hunter.
Awesome.
Actually, it was just within the last probably 4 years. I went on a trip. Lomanco is in Arkansas. We're in our plant and corporate office is in Jacksonville, Arkansas, and we have a lodge down there that we'll take people down to hunt. And I went down there hunting for the first time. Never duck hunted in my life, and went down there with some customers, and fell in love with it then. And then wound up extending for a couple of days and taking spot on a extended hunt that actually happened to be with Andy.
Okay.
And that's where Andy and I met. We spent a couple of days duck hunting in Arkansas. And then just so happened we both were flying back into BWI. So all of our flights were together. We spent some time, and that kind of started this relationship. So duck hunting has become my passion. My wife, she might not like it, but that's all that I talk about. If she's not watching something on TV, I'm watching duck hunting stuff on TV. So
yeah,
that's become my thing. So spending time with her and us spending time with my granddaughter, and then duck hunting when I'm able to sneak out.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that while this is a home improvement podcast, right? It's a roofing show. I think it's really important for people to understand that at the end of the day, we're not just out here and all we do is just sell. I mean, we're people at the end of the day too, right? So I feel like just humanizing, ourselves within the industry is important. So I mean, people can connect with you out in the blind as well as in the booth. You got IRE coming up, and I understand you're going to be out there.
I'm going to be out there. Yep.
Yeah.
That's always a good time to catch up with people in the industry that I don't get to see all the time, meet some new faces. The shows are great. And this is also, the time of year where we have a lot of regional shows going on. I've got one in Lehigh Valley next week. I'll be out in that area on Thursday for a contractor show. So those are where we really get to. Let's just say my busy season starts right after the holidays. Like right now when I'm getting back to work, it's going to be April before I know it, because show season starts, got all this travel. It's a time of year where roofing is slowed down. So a lot of the contractors are scheduling their seminars with me now. So trying to get all those booked and get the education side of it done. And then, like I said, before I'll know it will be April.
Yeah,
but that's what I like. I like doing that. I like the education side of it. I feel like I'm a people person. So I like educating. I like getting up in front of the room and talking about it and educating. I heard in a sales seminar, actually, I use it a lot of times in my email signature. It's a saying that actually two. One says you can either make it happen or you can watch it happen. That was actually, and I heard that years ago from an old Sirius satellite radio guy, Tim Sabian. He said that one day, and when I was listening to him on the radio, and it just stuck with me. The other thing I heard, and it's in my tagline as well, was if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That sticks with me because I can go fast by myself, but if I want to go far, I got to go together.
Right.
I got to educate my customers and that become friends around me, and let them go further themselves, learn more, close more jobs, because in the end, that's how we both win. So that's kind of what I do. It's what I kind of live by.
Well, I love that. I mean, and then like we said earlier, us being in alignment with you, yeah, everything that you represent, it's allowing us to go further. Your help and our partnership, it allows us to have a greater level of impact. So I believe in that just as much as you do. And while I don't necessarily say that just like that, I'm going to from now on. I love that. I like to go fast.
Yeah.
But I also like to go fast with other people that want to go fast too. And shared learning, shared failures, and then you can react quickly and just kind of speed up the time that it takes to have a greater sense of impact and a greater realized level of impact. So I absolutely love that. So Jim, what's the best thing for for those up and coming contractors that haven't taken that next step to get themselves educated? Because this isn't just a show for homeowners. I want it to be inspiring to other service professionals or industry professionals that are looking to just do it differently. The guys that just get it. So for those guys that get it and really do want to elevate their craft, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and start to really hone in on this knowledge and all this experience that you possess?
They can reach out to me directly. You'll have all my contact information. Or they can reach out to the distributor wherever they may purchase products from. If they just reach out to them and say, "Hey, I want to schedule a Lomanco training," they'll work directly with me. The good thing with us is we distribute through all major one-step distribution. So the ABCs, the QXOs, the SRSs, all of those that are out there. So very easy to get a hold of. I'm one of those guys that will tell people, don't be scared to give my number out.
Perfect.
My phone number's out. I hand out ink pens with my phone number on them. Again, I want to be the professional. If there's a ventilation question, I don't care if it's mine or not. I want to be the person they contact because in the end, I'm helping them, but I'm also helping myself.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. If nothing else too, I think Lomanco has a pretty serious arsenal of content in their YouTube library where you can just at a base level get an understanding of how these products work. And I know that you and I off air here, we had chatted about getting together again and doing another kind of Bealing roofing specific ventilation demonstration. So, working together there to really peel back the curtain on that. So, anyone that's watching, look forward to that in an upcoming episode later where we do this again, but we do it with all the bells and whistles and all the smoke.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be a fun one for sure. And like I said, I wholeheartedly believe in what you're doing and how you're doing it. And, now getting to know you at this level too, why you do it, I feel it. And it definitely empowers me and my staff and everyone that's represented in the Bealing brand to have a really emotional, strong impact on the people that we serve. For us, it's business, but it's personal, right? We definitely flirt with that boundary line. Every engagement is personal. It's personal to us to leave a good mark and do it the right way. And it's because of guys like you that have put us in a great position to be able to do that. So we owe a tremendous amount of gratitude, and I'm certainly grateful for the time that you spent here helping add value. And I encourage anybody on the contractor level that doesn't know Jim, please take a couple minutes and reach out. And if nothing else, you can help kind of redirect them to the area rep in their part of the woods. And so awesome. Well, Jim, thanks for taking time out. And man, I cannot wait to get back together and do that demonstration. It is by far one of the most visually it is the coolest thing I've ever seen in roofing. I know like VR and stuff like that for training is starting to come up, but this is by far on another level. We'll definitely need to get that on the schedule. And then, you come by the booth when you're in Vegas for the IRE and I'll introduce you to the owner and everything while we're there. And then I definitely love to get you guys, maybe even just fly down to the plant and do it down there. We do a plant tour and we can use everything right there. We love it, man. All right. Well, Jim, thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a great one. I appreciate the support, and you guys do a great job, and I couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you. Yes, sir. All right, folks, there you have it. Jim Lomanco, the doctor of attic ventilation. And while it's not a sexy thing necessarily, I mean, roofing as itself is not a sexy industry, and it's certainly not a sexy purchase. We get it. But it is also ever important to make sure that if you do it, if you're a homeowner in consideration, make sure you're working with professionals who have aligned themselves with other industry professionals to make sure you get the absolute best product for your home and your circumstances. And like we said, the cheap price, that's the roof you buy twice. Don't put yourself in that scenario. For the up and coming professionals and contractors watching the show that have not yet become attic ventilation trained, Jim is an absolute great resource for this. If you're not in Jim's territory, like he described, he'll absolutely route you to the appropriate individuals within the Lomanco brand. Take the time. It's free. It's just going to cost you your time. Get trained, at least understand how to properly set up your customers' homes, have a greater impact on the industry, and keep tuned in for additional content here from us where we actually pull back the curtain and we show how these products work in a future episode. So be sure to be tuned. Keep a lookout for that. And for those of you watching, thank you so much. Your viewership means it means more to us than we can describe. So thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.